Hi, and welcome to Yoga for Runners. This is your post-run stretch class, and I want to thank Brooks for putting together this opportunity to work together. I'm a huge fan of Brooks for their running shoes, so I was stoked when they reached out. So for this class, I'm going to recommend that you go shoeless if possible, and we're going to start by relaxing and cooling down. Come into a child's pose position, and this is going to help to bring us into a parasympathetic state. So after we've warmed up, heated up, we want to teach the body to be able to get back into a calm state. We're going to do that by putting pressure on the front of the rib cage and slowing down our breath. So let's fold forward over the legs. Just let your arms rest at your side and let your head drop down. And with the pressure of your thighs up against the front of your rib cage, see if as you exhale, you can let all the air go out. And then when you go to breathe in, keep your neck relaxed. Again, when you exhale, let all the air out. And as you breathe in, keep your neck relaxed. Last slow breath like that, all the air out. And now see when you breathe in, can you feel the back and side ribs expand from the bottom up? Breathing like this will help to train the diaphragm to become stronger, which will help with your lung capacity and your overall endurance and power in your run. Come up onto your hands and your knees. And let's do a little spinal mobility now with cat-cow. So taking the spine through its range of motion, first round your back, tuck your butt under, around your lower back, middle, upper back, and your neck, look back. And then as you inhale, flip your tailbone, sit bones up, let your lower back sink towards the ground, your middle spine, upper spine, and start to tip your chin up. And do that 2 more times. Exhale to round. Inhale into extension. Exhale to round. So your discs, they bathe in fluid and blood, and by going through this full range of motion, it helps to keep the fluid moving through them so that the discs stay healthy. So you inhale, flip the other way. Those are like your shock absorbers for your spine joints, so it's good to keep those healthy. Then come to neutral. Now we're going to come into a lunge position. So step your right foot up to the outside of your right hand. If it's difficult to be in this position, you could put something underneath your hands or come up onto your fingertips. But otherwise, from this position, we're going to slide the right hand behind the left wrist and stretch and reach and open up any tension in the back of the shoulders. And as you inhale, let's go the other way. Twist open, reach down through your left hand, raise your right arm. As you exhale, thread your arm through. Real slow movements here, again, to facilitate the calming of the nerves. And as you inhale, twist open the other way. Now keep your arm up in the air, reach into your right heel, lift your back thigh up, press down through your big toe mound as you lift the leg. Then bring your hand down onto the ground. Hold here in the lunge with the back leg lifted. Then one more time, drop the knee down, bring your hands to your right knee, and upright yourself. Now in this position, we can open up the front of the hip by how we use the glute. So first, rotate your thigh so that your thigh is in neutral. Spin your inner thigh back, move your buttock towards the back of your knee, and that should start to put a stretch in the front of your hip. Then raise your arm up. We did this in the warm-up video. Now we're going to hold it for time, stretch up and over to the side. Now, if your balance isn't very good or you feel unsteady, you can always go against the wall and just let your hand touch the wall. And having something to lean up against can actually help your nervous system to relax more. So I recommend that if you don't have good balance or if you just want to get real relaxed. So this is great for the iliopsoas, hip flexors, and for your spine health. If you have lower back issues, this can help with that. Good, then come back up. Now bring both hands onto the inside of your foot, and we're gonna come into a half split stretch. So bring your hips back over top of your knee and stretch the leg forward. So as you reach down through your right inner foot, imagine there was like a string from your inner big toe joint all the way up to your hip socket, and you're lengthening the string by reaching down and reaching your hip socket back at the same time. All right, and then as we're holding this stretch, we're gonna go back to the diaphragmatic breathing. This is not only important for the health of our lungs and for our overall endurance, strength of the diaphragm, but it also helps with our posture. So as you exhale, tip your ribs towards your pelvis, reach your pelvis, sit bones back. And then as you inhale, instead of just breathing into the front of your ribs, I want you to visualize that you could breathe into the whole circumference of your rib cage. And this gets all the fibers of the muscles of the diaphragm to participate in your breath. Rebend your knee, lift your back knee up, and we're gonna come into our down dog stretch. Step your right leg back, reach down through your hands. If you wanna mellow this stretch out, you can do it with your knees down and stretch your butt back like this. So whichever stretch feels better for you, the hips up in the air or the knees down. Reach from your armpits into your hands. Draw the bottom of your sternum towards your hips, and then reach your thighs up and back, hips up and back. Let your head drop down. Then step your left foot up to the outside of your left hand. Drop your right knee. Let the hips settle here. The groin start to open up. And slide your left hand behind your right wrist. And as you inhale, start to open up. Exhale, reach behind your right wrist, slide it through. Inhale, twist open. Now hold the open twist. How good does it feel? I mean, you know it's good for you because you're doing it and you're like, this feels amazing. And then lift your back knee up. Draw your left thigh back, hip crease back, lift up through your back knee as you stretch. Then bring your hand down as you hold in the high lunge with the back knee up. Your slow breathing will help cue your nervous system to relax into the position so that you get the maximum benefit out of each pose that you're holding. If you find that you're holding your breath in a pose, that usually means that you're going a little too deep for your ability, so you can back off a bit. Just like with running, the more you stretch, the more your body gets used to it. It becomes easier over time. You can go deeper, etc. Drop your knee down. And then upright yourself. Bring your hands to your left knee. We'll get the slight tuck of the pelvis, nothing crazy, just enough to get the front of the hip to open up. By tucking the butt, the stretch is here in the front. Then take your arm up, keeping the buttock reaching down, and stretch your arm up and over. Now I'm going to add an instruction here. So as you exhale and feel your left side ribs compress, inhale and imagine that your whole right side rib cage was like gills on a fish. And feel the expansion there. On your exhalation, feel what's on the ground, ground down, and you feel secure, grounded. That will also help your nervous system, your brain, your nervous system to feel calm in the stretch. Calmer that you can be, the more benefit you're going to get. Then come back up. Nice. Bring your hands down. And we'll come into the half split stretch. Also, by opening up the intercostals, those are the muscles in between your ribs, it's going to help with your lung capacity as well. The tighter those things get, then your diaphragm, your lungs can't move well. And that inhibits your overall performance. So through these stretches, you're going to become a better breather. That's kind of cool. As you exhale, draw the rib cage towards the pelvis, which might feel like it rounds you. And then we're going to find the spinal elongation at the same time, like someone was pulling the sit bones, your buttock bones, straight back out of your lower back. Somebody else was gently pulling a hair on top of your head. So we have like a little bit of traction going on. The exhalation helps to reconnect us to the zone of apposition, the space between the rib cage and pelvis for the diaphragm movement. And as you inhale, feel your full expansion of your rib cage. And as you exhale, visualize the diaphragm, the breathing apparatus, releasing back up under the rib cage towards the heart. Reach from your big toe down towards the ground. Lengthen from your inner big toe joint, imaginary string, to the hip crease. Then rebend that knee. And let's come back into down dog. If you did down dog last time, maybe go for the extended child's pose. If you did extended child's pose, try the down dog. If it doesn't feel right, go back for the extended child's. So I like doing this one with the big toes curled under, because the amount of flexion you get in your big toe joint is going to help with your gait kinematics. If your big toe joint can't get full flexion, your foot is going to be forced to turn out in the gait cycle. That turns your hip and it throws off your hip and your lower back. So being able to get full flexion of the big toe joint is one of the most important things in the foundation of our gait cycle. Maintaining your big toe flexion here. Let's get some more intercostal movement because it's going to be so important for your diaphragm. Walk your hands over to the right without letting your rib cage disconnect from your pelvis. Stretch the front ribs down and breathe into your left side body. And as you exhale, feel what's on the ground, relax deeper. Let the ground support you. Let your body fall into the ground, so to speak. Then change sides. And as you hold in this stretch, again, feel on your exhalation that you're grounding, you're letting the rib cage connect to the pelvis. And then once the rib cage connects to the pelvis, on your inhalation, feel the diaphragm move downward and your side ribs expand. Just by visualizing the natural movement of the diaphragm can help with its mechanics, how it moves. Then walk your hands back to center. Come up onto your hands and your knees. Stretch back into your downward facing dog. Then step your right foot up to the outside of your right hand for the high lunge. And then this time with your back knee just slightly bent, start to upright yourself. And then from this high lunge position, let's try to lift the back leg towards straight and reach back from your back hip to your heel. Now let's add an arm reach. Stretch your left arm forward and all the way out. Bring that hand back down. Now bend your back knee. Then bring your hands down to the ground and stretch your right leg towards straight. Reach down through the inner foot, deepen the line from the big toe to the hip crease. Now, if reaching to the ground is too much, you can put your hands up on a chair, on a couple of yoga blocks. Over time, again, the hamstrings will get more flexible and you'll be able to go deeper. Or you can just work with the legs semi-bent if you don't want to add some props. Then rebend that knee, and let's go back on the hands and knees or back into down dog. Your child's pose stretch or your down dog stretch. And then step your left foot up. This time, keep the back knee up, just with a slight bend, upright yourself. Feel your buttocks lengthen down so you can open up in the front of your hip. And then keeping the back of the pelvis reaching down, start to stretch your back leg towards straight. Keep some work on your inner legs. At the same time, imagine you're gently hugging something in between your inner thighs. Then let's add the right arm reach. Because it's all connected, so the deep front body line, which runs from your inner foot all the way up the side of your spine. Now when we stretch the arm, we can feel that line of fascia being stretched and lengthened even more. Then bring your hand back down, put a little bend in your back knee. Reconnect to your breath, slow, steady breathing. Then bring your hands down and stretch your left leg towards straight. Rebend your knee, step back into your down dog or child's pose stretch, and breathe. Reconnect to your breath, slow, steady breathing. Then walk your feet up forward to the front of your mat. The little bend in your knees, let your head drop. Roll yourself up to stand. All right, now let's go with the legs wide apart. And we're gonna get into some stretches for the hamstrings and hips here. Fold forward, bring your fingertips onto the ground or a couple of blocks. With your big toes turned out just slightly, bend your right knee, lunge to the right, and stretch from your left inner leg to your left inner foot. Now you can add on here and get a little forearm, wrist, shoulder stretch by turning the hands around. Five slow, deep, steady breaths here. Change sides. Come back to center with both legs straight or the knees slightly bent. Fold forward and walk your hands over to the right. Reach from your left hip into your left foot at the same time. And then change sides, walk your hands over to the left. And reach from your right thigh, right hip into your back foot. Come back to center, fold forward down the middle. Slow, steady breathing. Full exhalations. Then inhale into a flat back. Walk your hands around to the front of your mat. Step back into your down dog stretch and make it a little bit shorter so that you can start to reach the heels down towards the ground. Then hook your right foot to your left heel and reach the left heel down as you stretch to open up the calf. Change sides. Release that. Step your feet forward. As you inhale, slide your hands up your shins and lengthen your spine. As you exhale, fold forward. Press into your feet. Inhale, come up. Spread your arms and reach up. Reach down through your heels as your thighs release back. Grow tall through the sides of your body, up through your fingers. Then bring your hands to prayer position, and with your eyes closed, reconnect to your breath. Then open your eyes. Let's do one more ankle and calf focus stretch here. So you're going to go to a wall, step your right foot forward and your left foot back. Go far enough to where you feel like you're in a stretch position, and then bend your right knee towards the wall as you reach your left heel down. And then by doing a calf stretch with the knee bent, you're going to hit slightly different fibers and muscles. So let's try bringing the foot a little away from the wall. Left foot comes a little bit closer. And then with your left knee bent, you're going to go into the stretch again. Change sides. Now, as a bonus, the next time you try this video, I mentioned the importance of big toe flexion. You can add toes up the wall stretch. Toes going up the wall as the ball of the toe reaches down in the front leg. I don't want to get too tricky on this first round, but if you want to try that on the second round, you're welcome to try that. Look for that same feeling we practiced earlier of the buttock flesh, back of the hip reaching down towards your heel as you open up and breathe through the front of your hip. And then bring the feet a little closer towards each other so you can bend the back knee now. And stretch with the back knee bent. Release that. And even though I'd like to keep stretching with you all day, at some point we got to wrap this thing up. So we're going to try a couple of hip stretches here. Let's start with the left knee forward and lower your right knee. Start to stretch the right leg back in space to get a stretch for the front of the right hip and to improve your hip flexion for your left leg. If this bothers your knee at all, then instead of doing it from the hands and knee position, you just lie on your back and hug your knee into your chest and stretch your leg out that way. Change sides. That was a good one. It's going to help when I'm running up the hill next time. Again, throwing high knees way up. Where I live, there's a lot of hills, so being able to have good hip flexion is important. All right, now this next stretch can be risky on the outer knee joint. So I'm going to show you from the hands and knee position, but I'm also going to show it on the back so you can feel what feels most appropriate for you. You'll bring your knee up towards your elbow, and then you turn your thigh out so that your shin comes towards parallel to the front, although it won't be. It's still at an angle, an acute angle, instead of close to a 90 degree. Then from there, just like in the last stretch, I scoot the knee back. Now, instead of feeling pressure in the outer knee, I want to feel a stretch in my outer hip. So if that's the case, if I'm feeling the stretch well in my outer hip, great, stay there. If not, you're going to roll onto your back. And you can do this by crossing your ankle over your knee and then sliding your heel down the wall. As you hold here, just let your thigh turn out, let your hips relax down, your ribs drop, and your back relax. Then release and change sides. Show you what it's like to change sides from the pigeon on the hands and knees. So the reason why it can affect the knee is if you don't have adequate external rotation with hip flexion. So you need extreme hip flexion, you need extreme external rotation ability of the femur and the hip socket. So if those two required movements of the hip socket aren't there, then your knee will take the burden. But if you do this sequence pretty regularly, then it won't be an issue for you because you have hips that are moving like butter. Three more breaths in the variation that's most appropriate for you. So just remember in this stretch, you don't want to be too close to the wall to where your butt lifts up and your thigh twists in. You want to be able to feel that your thigh can release away from you as the left heel slides down, your hips can drop down and your back can relax. Less is more with this. Again, you want to feel that you can breathe and your body can relax. Over time, you add more and you see if your body can relax in the same shape. All right, now make your way onto your back. If you're in the pigeon, we're going to do happy baby stretch. So modification, you'll hug your knees to your armpits. If your hips are more open, you can reach onto the insides of your knees, grab your big toes or your outer feet. Similar to the last pose, let your hips relax down towards the ground as your back relaxes. This is another great one. Okay, then release that, and we're gonna do our final spinal twist, which these last two stretches, these are my absolute favorite. So open up your arms to the side and cross your ankle over your knee. Let your right shoulder drop down, right ankle over your left knee. And keeping the right shoulder relaxing towards the ground, let your legs twist over to the left. So as I mentioned in the warm-up video, our pre-run warm-up, the rotation is really important. When our body gets stuck and it's not able to rotate, we get locked into patterns, and then we end up with all sorts of issues with our biomechanics. So rotation and spinal mobility are key to keeping us running healthy for a lifetime. It's kind of crazy, but one of the ways that I got into yoga actually was I was a psych major, and we had this guy from the Chiquita Banana commercial. I don't know if you ever remember this, and this is not sponsored by Chiquita Banana or anything, but this guy, he was like in his 80s, and he came to the class. It was a class on psychology of aging or something like that, and he discussed he was in these commercials, Chiquita Banana commercials, running and jumping hurdles, and he's in his 80s, and he's like, every day to Chiquita Banana, and that's how. But then he told us, he's like, that's not the real reason. The real reason is that I stay active, I keep running, but I stretch every day. Let's change sides now. And at the time, I was into running, I was into weightlifting, but I wasn't doing any stretching. Let your legs fall over as your left shoulder drops. And he said that was the key, that he spent every morning, he did his run, he stretched, and that the stretching and staying active, the running was the key to his longevity. So I thought, like, oh man, if I go to one of them yoga classes, they're gonna make me stretch. They got some stretching in those classes, right? And the rest is history. I've been doing it ever since, and I'm actually 80 years old. I don't know if you knew it. No, but it's helped to keep me going, and it helped to keep that guy going. But by adding these stretches to your regular routine, it's going to help you to keep running healthy. All right, let's bring it back to center. And now the adductors, the inner legs, we're going to get a nice stretch for those. And then all of the hunching over that can come from running with poor posture, which I'm sure you're not doing, but some other people, they might be doing that. So this might benefit. We'll open up the chest and shoulders with the arms in cactus position. Now, if you feel your body really fighting these positions, like you're so tight, put stuff underneath your hands and underneath your knees so you can relax into it. Over time, you can lower the support more and more. And this is going to be our Shavasana, or our corpse pose, or final meditation relaxation position. So this is important because it helps to integrate all the deep breathing and poses that we did. And by really relaxing at the end, that's going to be important for helping to integrate the practice. As I mentioned before, allowing the nervous system to relax, teaching the body to move from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, and being able to go into that shift will help us to restore, to recover. So just relax in this position. And with each exhalation, visualize yourself falling into the ground, completely giving up, letting go. Let go of what you're still holding. Just relax. Then bring your hands to your heart, bring your knees together, and roll over to your side. Press yourself up to seated. All right, well, thank you. Namaste. Thanks for joining me for the practice today. I hope you feel good and all stretched out. Again, I wanted to thank Brooks for sponsoring this class and just mention these shoes, the Adrenalins, were important in correcting my gait cycle because of the guide rail system. And I'll put a link below where you can read more about that. I've since switched to the Ghost, which has become my new favorite running shoe from Brooks. And they just feel amazing. Yeah, so check that stuff out on their website. You can go to brooks.com to see whatever they got on there. Again, thanks for joining me. And if you haven't already, check out my YouTube channel, Yoga with Tim. And I'll see you on your yoga mat or on a trail somewhere. Have a good one.